you are, what you do, and then you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, sure. Well, hi everyone, welcome. My name's Vicki, and I am really happy to be here with you guys and talk a little bit about how to build a great resume. My experience, just really briefly, is about 30 years in communications, and one of the many roles I play is being a recruiter for my agency. So I look at a lot of resumes every day, and the idea is to pull together some insights for you that help you figure out the best way to get your resume ready for the next time you're ready to submit it. And I know right now things are pretty uncertain, and you might be wondering if it really matters, but I'm here to tell you it really does, because when the economy gets better, you're going to want to be ready to jump on it. It's going to be a challenge, especially all of you graduates. You were all poised to enter a market that was going to be super strong, and now you're going to enter a market that will have a lot more uncertainty and certainly more competition for those entry jobs. So this is the time really to gear up and get prepared. Don't waste this time and kind of plan to wing it when the economies and the states all start to reopen. You really should use this time now to get the best resume together that you can. So I'm excited that you're taking advantage of this time here to learn a little bit. So I'm going to go through these slides, and please send your notes or questions in the chat. I can't see the answers, or I'm sorry, your questions in the chat, but Miss Madrid can, so she'll stop me if there's something we need to talk about. Okay, so let's get started. You're going to need three things to be able to be competitive out there in this job market, and that's going to be a resume. And there's three versions of your resume that you want to be thinking about, and we'll talk about those right now. A searchable version, which is in Word, a static version, which is PDF, and then a digital version, which is what lives online about you. Searchable and static is what we'll focus on the most, but this is because the more recruiters like me use platforms for searching for applicants, they're looking for special buzzwords, search terms. And PDFs are not always scannable, not always searchable. So you have to be mindful of making sure that your content's out there in the right kind of platform, right kind of format that will make sure people can see it. And then everyone's going to need to gear up and make sure you have references ready. So this is the time right now to think about who you can enlist to be a reference formally, not informally, but formally ask for your references. And then interview skills. These are things that we can be all talking about right now and be ready for when it's time to go out there and get a job. So let's just start with the resume. So a resume, contrary to a lot of people's thinking, is not a record of everything you've done. It's not some exhaustive place where you've got one page to dump everything you've done since kindergarten or since middle school. It's really meant to be a relevant and select collection of selling points, very specific to the opportunity that you want. So if you are thinking of different kinds of jobs, you won't be using one resume as, one resume does not fit all. You might have many resumes before this is done. And that's because each resume really needs to be relevant for the job you want. Because recruiters like me, if we see something that's super generic, that just screams to us that you'll take any job. You'll take anything where you can get a paycheck. And that's a really risky investment on our part if you're not 100% sure that the job you're applying for is the one for you. So that'll get tossed in the trash can. We're really looking for things that are relevant and specific to the opportunity we're hiring for. And a resume should just really be the reasons why you should come get that interview from us. Okay, so if you remember one thing only from this presentation is that the resume's job is to make it very simple to show that you could be a great fit. Simple, not complicated. If it's too hard for me to look at, if it's too busy, you're cramming too much stuff, you've gotten all artsy and it's creative and it's funky and it's fun, but it's hard for me to figure out what your job qualifications are, straight to the trash can. Not even going to try, because I've got so many resumes to review in a certain day. I can only handle ones that speak clearly to what I want, because honestly, that shows me that you have focus as well and that you know what you want. If you can't even decide what you want in one page, How am I going to figure that out? So again, remember, this is not about you telling me your story. This is about you showing me why you would be a good fit for whatever job it is I'm interviewing for as a recruiter that you're applying for. So let's look at the math for a bit. On average, every recruiter might be looking at 250 resumes for a given opening. That's a lot. That's a lot of paper coming through an inbox. You can imagine, right? And of all of those 250 people that sent a resume, only 4 to 6 will get called in for an interview. So you can imagine that I did not spend a lot of time looking at all 250. It was really quick. Okay. You put them in stacks, you prioritize, like maybe a good fit, definitely not a good fit. Oh, okay, these are the super good fits. That's how you do it to get through 250 efficiently. And then at the end of the day, we all know that only one person's going to get the opportunity. So even before COVID, the amount of time an interviewer, recruiter would spend on a given resume was pretty short. There's been studies that say that it's about 6 seconds. Isn't that scary? 6 seconds. That's the average time that your resume has to tell a recruiter if you're a potential fit or not. So when you've spent hours and hours and hours of creating the perfect resume, to find out that really in 6 seconds, it either screams that you're a fit or it's complicated, it's too much to look at, it goes to the trash can. So really keep in mind, it's about short, sweet, and concise. The goal is not to have the best resume on the planet. The goal is to get the interview. So be thinking about that. The goal is just to get past the recruiter, past the review stage, and get the interview. Because yes, all those 250 people are raising their hands saying they want a job. But as recruiters, we only want to talk to the 4 to 6 people that understand this job. So if I'm interviewing for a job at a retail location and my friend over here is interviewing jobs for an accounting position, for example, you can appreciate those are really different jobs, really different qualifications. So we don't want to see resumes that look super generic and it could easily be for anything. We want to see resumes that really show that you understand what this particular opportunity is. You've done your homework, you've got the right skill set, you've got the right interest, and therefore you're the worthy person that should come for the interview. We don't want everyone who raises their hand that says they want a job. Everybody wants a job, and it's going to be super competitive when the state reopen and all the different businesses reopen. So the ones who are going to stand out, the ones who are going to get the interview, are the ones that can really convince me as a recruiter that you want my particular job, the one I'm interviewing for right now. And what's at stake? As a recruiter, I don't know if you think about these things, but recruiters, are usually paid on commission. They're usually successfully paid when the position hired does well. And sometimes recruiters don't even get paid their commission until someone has been on the job for 90 days. So once you pass the probation 90 days, then a recruiter can claim victory that, okay, I found someone, they were a good fit for the job, and it looks like they're going to stick around, it's going to be a fit, so now I get my money. It's really a waste of time and money if it's a bad fit, because that means you're not going to probably make it past 90 days and nobody gets paid. On average, when you think about all the training and money spent to, let's say, try you out and bring you in, have you go through orientation, have you sit through shadowing somebody for a job, maybe it even a uniform or a name tag or all those things, that actually adds up. And for the first year, that's about 30% of the average starting salary. So you can just hopefully remember that a recruiter is going to be that much more critical about whether or not you're a fit, because there's real money on the table that they can lose if they gamble with someone who doesn't look like a good fit, that might be a risky fit. It's not worth it. Not when I have 250 other resumes to look at. Yours will just go to the trash can if I don't believe it's a great fit. You want to really make sure that your resume is working hard for you and really screaming out loud why you're a good fit. So let's get started on the basics. Any questions so far? Everyone good? Okay. So reminder, the resume's job is just to make it very simple to show you would be a great fit, because nobody gets hired off of a resume. You get hired off of the interview. So you've got to get through the hurdle of having a good resume so that you'll get invited for the interview. Even if you're doing something at a Starbucks, you know, something where you think, oh, it doesn't really matter. It actually does. Starbucks does require resumes. Different jobs will require this. So you do have to take it seriously. But again, don't write this super long essay about your life. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for selling points that tell us as recruiters why you're a good fit. Okay, so the number one tip is you got to customize it. You're not going to write one resume and then just blanket all these different job portals, because it's going to be so generic, right? It's going to say, I want a job because guess what? I'm a good student. I pay attention. I'm a hard worker. You and 1,000 other people can say that. Keep that in mind. To be competitive, you've got to customize it. And it doesn't have to be a huge effort. It just has to be a super smart, strategic effort to customize it in a way that would really make it stand out. And that's what we're going to talk about. So let's kind of level set. Let's sort of start thinking about what kind of jobs maybe you're thinking about and what kind of opportunities are out there. So right now, the top 10 careers for somebody with a high school diploma. Many of you might be thinking about college or just, you know, in between jobs. So just to kind of start thinking about what's out there, what's available. The top 10 jobs right now are customer service representatives, interesting retail, right? And again, it's all COVID kind of makes some of this stuff a little bit trickier, but as the economies reopen, working retail, certified nursing assistant, office manager, receptionist, administrative assistant, cashier, truck driver, delivery service, bank teller, food service, or military. Those are the top 10 careers right now. And if you're basing this all on money, U.S. News and World Report actually released just this year the top paying jobs without a college degree. Again, given the economy, a lot of people are recommending graduates stay in school, keep going to college because of the fact that it's going to be tough. But if that's not an option for you and you want to look at different ideas, these are the top paying jobs right now without a college degree. So interesting patrol officer tops the list, executive assistant, sales rep, electrician, so there's a trade school involved there, structural iron, steel worker, plumber, hearing aid specialist, sound engineer. It's a full list. If you're interested in knowing more on this list, I recommend you Google for U.S. News and World Report Best Jobs of 2020. They have a whole report about all the different career opportunities and starting salaries, average salaries, etc. And it's a good way if you're not sure, you're on the fence about what kind of career you want to get into. It's helpful to know so that you're level set about the different kinds of salary bands that the different kinds of careers have. A few more graphs just to kind of, if you really haven't thought about where you want to go, just to kind of inspire some thinking. I always like to take a look at what's out there. And so this is a graph of the top 10 employers, best large employers of 2019. So this means that their workers said this was a good place to work. And I love seeing that Trader Joe's is on the top of this list. Trader Joe's has a great reputation, apparently, for really treating its staff well and promoting from within. I don't work for Trader Joe's, so this is not me endorsing them, but I think their reputation is something to think about. Because really interesting also on a different list in terms of best employers for new grads, Trader Joe's hit the #1 list on this one again too. So kind of interesting. But there's a lot of research out there, and I imagine in this COVID world, I was looking for some more even recent data, and it's not available yet. But if you're not really sure what you want to do, you can definitely think about looking for this kind of information online. It's readily available if you look. Look for new jobs, look for keywords. If you're interested in thinking about it from a salary perspective, if you're interested in looking at degree or no degree, sometimes based on geography, there's lots of considerations, but do some homework that way. Okay, so now we're going to get to the actual resume. So hopefully in your mind, you've got some thoughts, because this is only really effective if you have some kind of jumping off point. Because what you want to do is brainstorm qualities that the recruiter is going to be looking for. So again, it's not about the story necessarily that you just want to say, like you woke up this morning and you want to say, I'm a hard worker and all these things. You really have to put yourselves into the shoes of the person that's doing the interview. Think about what they want, and they'll probably have told you. They told you in the job description what they want. And you have to figure out how your resume can communicate that you're a good fit for what they want. So think about what they want, and keep in mind that it's not going to be some generic, very bland description. It's going to be very specific based on what the recruiter was hired to do, whether it is to fill a position for a driver, fill a position for a customer service representative, or whatever. It's very specific what they want, and your resume needs to live up to that. So when I've done this before, Ms. Madrid, we've passed out these keywords for folks. So I don't know if there's a way later they could get it, but this is helpful because when you're starting your resume, it's good to see a list like this and maybe circle 4 or 5 that are relevant to you. So I don't know if there's a way later that people can see this.
You can email me and we can get that out. I think Mr. White has a lot of students here, so I can get it to him. And if anybody would like it, they can email me directly.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks.
Because sometimes you're just not sure what words are necessary. But definitely the first and foremost source should be the job description. You should use their language. If they said what matters most to them is somebody who's goal-oriented and trusted, that should be in your job description. That should be in what you're all about, because again, you're trying to match up to what they're looking for. But these are just a bunch of really good words that are important to recruiters that you should think about. And I highlighted in red some of the words that are sort of standing out right now when we think about post-COVID opportunities. It's going to be a little bit more chaotic. They're going to need people who are more flexible, able to be more responsive, more ability to pivot. So your ability to maybe you can be a jack of all trades. You got to be able to do more things and be more flexible. I was talking to a recruiter last night, and she was saying that all the early new positions, the different hiring managers are definitely looking for someone who's not going to be so rigid. And if you were hired for front desk, but sometimes you're needed to work the back room, they're looking for people to be flexible because everything's so uncertain that you have to be able to say that you can be a team player no matter what. So I do think it's interesting that right now to be mindful that that's top of mind, that everyone needs to be that sort of team player. And so your resume should reflect that up front. Don't wait for someone to ask you, hey, by the way, are you a team player? You should be upfront advertising. Yes, I can be a team player. I'm flexible. I'm excited to, work this position that you're looking for. But if you need support sometimes in this other position, of course, I'll jump in and help. Be prepared to sell yourself that way. Those are going to be really important in the upcoming months. Different kinds of experience that matters to recruiters. Again, you can ask Ms. Madrid for this list, but sometimes if you really haven't had much professional work experience while you were in high school, you might think that, I have nothing to put on my resume, but that's not true. Whether you've been babysitting or volunteering at your church or helping out with a club, and maybe you do the newsletter for your club or something, or the website, there's probably different skills that you have been doing that maybe you haven't thought of them as skills, but you should. So if you've been doing photography, if you've been writing, communicating, many people have language skills. If you speak another language, then you can translate. Maybe you've been working with money, whether it be for a club project or helping somebody balance their checkbook. These are all skills that you've got to give some thought, and don't sell yourself short because it all really counts. And it's not the job of the recruiter to sit there and try to pull this out of you. They don't have that time. They don't have that energy. So you have to pull it out of yourself or talk to someone. I talk a lot to different students and have them tell me about what they're doing. And then you go, oh, you see there's an example of you problem solving. There's an example of you showing good customer service. Don't sell yourself short. You probably have a lot of great skills to offer an employer, but it is your job, not their job, to figure them out. Okay, so basic template. That's what we're going to walk through for the next couple of slides on how your resume should look. Again, don't get fancy. Don't have crazy, handwriting fonts that are so hard to read. If it's hard to read, if it looks like it's going to give me a headache to read it, I just won't. I'll just toss it in the trash because I got plenty of other resumes to look at. So you might think this is uninspired and not creative, but that's really what recruiters want. They don't want it to become work to find what they need. They've got about 6 seconds or less. So it's got to communicate what they need so they can move on. So let's start with your name and the fact that you want to keep it simple and clear. So it should be very easy to find your name at the top, your address, and your telephone number. I shouldn't have to look for that. Sometimes people are getting fancy, putting it on the side margin, side column. If I have to look for it, I'm also going to think that you're just trying to be, you're just not understanding what the role of the resume is, and you're just a little bit, it looks just really naive, like you don't really get what's going on here. You're applying for a serious professional job, then you should have a serious professional resume. And that gets me to the point of the email. If you do not have a professional email, please get one. It's one of the first things you'll see, the first lines in a resume. And if you have an email that's more of your, personal account, and it's got some cutesy name that only means something to you, it's, fun. I'm sure it's a lot of fun with your friends, but it's not going to work on a professional email. It really should be first name, last name, first initial, last initial, any combination like that. At Gmail, at Hotmail, any of those are fine. Those are all free. So there's really no excuse not to have a professional email. But again, you're not going to see a professional recruiter respond back to a cutesy email that looks like it's your email that you've had since middle school. It's got to just really be your name. That's what it's got to be. Okay, so the first part of the resume should always be your objective. Why are you applying? And again, customize it for the opportunity. So what kind of job is this? What do you have to offer the employee, the employer? So this shouldn't be some sort of generic something that you say the same thing for every job, because of course not every job is the same. So why would your objective be the same? The most valuable thing for you to use is the job description. Every employer will post, what they're looking for. Your job is to take those words and take that objective place and show why you are the right fit for this. Show that you understand what is expected, and show me why you should be the one to come in for that interview. And this particular section is really important for searchability. So a lot of companies, especially anyone where you submit via an online portal, that's a big indicator to you that they're using an applicant tracking system, which means the computer gets the first round. So I mentioned 250 applications. That means the computer is doing the first round of screening, and they're looking for keywords that the recruiter popped into the machine. So if the recruiter said I needed a hardworking, resourceful person with experience using Microsoft, that's what the computer is triggered to look for. So if you didn't use those keywords because you didn't think that was important, the computer will just keep overlooking your application and dump it. But if you're, this is where you're being super smart, you use the keywords that are from the job description, then the computer will recognize them, and the computer will sort your resume to the top of the list. Again, it's super important to recognize that that's why you have to use those keywords, because the computer's doing the search, and if it's doing a scan and it doesn't find the words it wants, it'll dump it out. So a few examples, and I put in red what some of those keywords could be that a computer's looking for if it's doing the scan. So your objective could say that you're a self-starter seeking work in an office where I can continue to develop my organizational skills to help improve office efficiency. So this is communicating straight out that you have some of the qualities that me as a recruiter is looking for and makes me interested in knowing more about you. It's clear what you feel like you have to offer my organization. It's clear that you want to work in an office. So it helps me know that you've defined what you're looking for. Another example, maybe you want to say, if you're going maybe into accounting or something, you could say, I'm a detail-oriented graduate seeking an internship where I can continue to develop my career interest in accounting. Again, picking up on keywords in the job description so that it's making it very clear to them why you're a good fit, because you are basically able to explain back to them that you have what they're looking for. Maybe you're a resourceful graduate seeking work in a retail store where you can continue to build upon customer service skills. This tells me, if I'm a recruiter, that you consider yourself resourceful, which makes me interested in wanting to talk to you about why do you think you're resourceful? Give me some examples. It tells me that you've made a commitment to wanting to work in the retail environment. You're not on the fence about that. You're not thinking maybe office, maybe retail, maybe something else. You know you want retail. And it also tells me that you have some customer service skills. So that makes me kind of curious. Okay, maybe I want to have you come on in for an interview and talk to you about those skills. Just two more. Maybe you're looking for something in entry-level management. So again, the job description will give you a lot of cues on what to be looking for. Maybe you're a problem solver looking to secure an entry-level position where you could develop a career in business. So again, these are all just meant to show you how it can't be the same for everything, because clearly if you're applying for the truck driver position, it's just not the same. If I was the recruiter for a truck driver position, I would care about buzzwords like reliable, punctual, safe driver. You got to make sure I see those before I have to, within my first 6 seconds. I should see those words and go, okay, now I'm interested. Let me see what else this person has to offer. Okay, after we get past objective, after the computer hopefully has scanned you and says, okay, this guy, this girl has what I need, you're going to add some skills, and you should add 4 more keywords from what you brainstormed about what kind of skills they care most about. Is this about being resourceful, flexible, the fact that you're great with problem solving, maybe you're great with kids, maybe you have experience working with seniors, maybe you're good at writing, whatever it is. This is where you would list those skills. And then you would list some experience if you have some, or figure out a way to work with what you have. So you're going to show how you had job responsibilities that are relevant to this specific opening. And that's important. I underlined the word "this" because it's not about just everything you've done. It's really about what you've done that matters for this position. So if you did something in middle school or high school that has nothing to do with this particular opportunity, you might be taking up valuable space on this one-page resume to talk about something that has just no relevance to the opportunity. And I'd rather you use the space to talk about things you've done that do make sense. Even if it's classwork or club work or volunteer work, but something that's relevant to the position at hand. Otherwise, it's nice to see you have those other hobbies, but if it has nothing to do with the position, it might be taking up space that you should use otherwise. And this is, again, where you keep using words from the job description to keep tying it back to what the recruiter's looking for. So let's say maybe you were a hostess or a server at Denny's. You might find like there's not much more to say about that, but actually you probably, to do that position well, you probably can demonstrate some strong communication skills. And maybe you could also say that you worked to ensure accurate orders. You were a problem solver known for prompt responses to requests and issues. So this says a lot more than, hey, I took orders and I served people their food. It's all about how you talk about it. And again, don't sell yourself short. To do that job well, you probably had to be a great problem solver, because the customer's always right and maybe not always in the best of moods. So you had to work probably on a regular basis to smooth things out and make sure that you were always giving them, accurate orders, reliable, fast. Those are all things that you can bring to the table, and you shouldn't overlook the opportunity to really show that. Then we get to education on a resume. Graduation, June 2020, for those of you who are seniors, and you can highlight relevant classes and clubs. Again, relevant, you've only got so much space. So if the club has nothing to do with what you're doing, it may not be relevant. If it's just that you want to show something that you did, okay, maybe it makes sense. But if you've got a lot of different clubs, prioritize and show the ones that make the most sense for the position. Again, you don't want a super crowded resume that's going to just be an eyesore and no one's going to be able to read it and find the information they want. The resume is meant to communicate a very specific story, which is why you are fit for the position that you're applying for. Activities, the very last part. If you have any outside interests or community service that's relevant to the job. So same thing applies. Keep it focused. So if you were a lifeguard in middle school or high school, but you're applying for a job that has nothing to do with, I don't know, with involvement, then it really wouldn't be relevant. Though a lifeguard actually is a great one, because if you were a lifeguard, it shows a lot of responsibility. But my point was, if it's just something you did that has nothing to do with nothing, then don't list it. It just takes space, and you want to show focus.
Vicki, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
What if you have no experience, and if you do, because we have a lot of volunteer opportunities of just one day, can you put that under experience, even though it's like one day beach cleanup or a one day festival, that kind of thing? Does that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's experience. It's, there's no timeline on experience. So you could say that you, let's say, volunteered at the Bayona Creek or the Career Day, or you were a leader for the orientation at the high school, whatever it was that you did. Those are all really good ones, because it shows at the end of the day that you were willing to take on responsibility of some kind. You were ready to lead. You were able to be reliable and part of a team. Okay. Definitely counts.
Okay.
So the end part of a resume is your references. They are usually listed upon request, so you don't use the space on your one page to list names, but you should have them ready. And what I mean by that is you've thought about who you would use. It could be an employer, a teacher, a neighbor, and it even can be family, friends. If you don't have a past employer or a teacher that you want to ask, you can think about that. It's not a good practice to just proactively give out phone numbers of people, especially when you're submitting through a portal. That's not a good idea, because they're not prepared. They don't know what they're going to get a phone call on. The better thing to do is right now identify about 3 people that you feel could be good references about specifically what you're trying to promote. So again, it all comes back to what the recruiter wants to hear about. If you're applying for a position where customer service would be a big deal, you want to have references that can say, yes, I've witnessed that this person is good under pressure. This person is good with people, great with talking. If you're looking at a position that is working with children, you want people who have seen you with children. So think about it from that perspective. It's not about, oh yeah, she's a nice person. Try to find people that can actually vouch for you doing some of the things that you're saying are the important skills for this particular job. And right now is the time to call them and formally tell them, I'm going to be applying for jobs. Specifically, I'd like a job that, maybe helps me in the retail space or helps me get an internship somewhere. I'm going to be looking for references that could vouch on my attention to detail or the fact that I'm really responsible. Would you be one of those people? Don't do this informally, because if you treat this informally, they're going to get this phone call and they're going to be like, oh yeah, she's nice, whatever. And it's not going to help you at all. You need them to understand that you're taking it seriously and you're very professionally, respectfully asking them to be a reference, and that you're not going to just throw their phone number all over the internet. You're going to wait till a recruiter contacts you and says, okay, I'm interested in talking to you and your references. And that's the appropriate time to say, okay, I have these 3 references, here it is. And then at that moment is a great time to call back those people and say, I want to remind you that you said you would be a reference. I want you to know I gave your phone number to Macy's.com and they might be calling you. Never assume that you can just keep releasing their name over and over, because what you're going to find is they won't be as good a reference if they're not in the loop about what you're trying to accomplish. They'll be like, oh yeah, I know Vicki. Yeah, she's a nice person. You'd rather them say, oh yes, I'm glad you called. Vicki said you were gonna call and that you're looking for a job at Macy's? Oh, she'd be great for that. Let me tell you why I think she'd be great for that. If these are truly your teachers, your family, friends, they all want to help you in that way, but you've got to do your work to prepare them so that they can do a good job. If they just get a call off guard and they're blindsided and some random person calls, they're probably going to go, oh, they're going to say the bare minimum. They're just going to go, yeah, nice person. Yeah, sure. And that's not going to get you far. And as a recruiter, I can always tell if a reference is really, been prepped properly to be a good reference. And that shows a lot of character about the person applying, that they took the time to make sure their reference was in a position to do a good job. When you talk to someone who is like, oh yeah, I know her, then you're realizing nobody really took this very seriously. And again, it counts against you as to whether or not you're a good fit for the job. So 3 references, work on that now. Formally ask them for permission to have them as a reference. Okay, do's and don'ts. Get the details right. Look at the job description. Make sure you understand the deadline. Make sure you understand the format. A lot of job descriptions are very specific right now about how to submit, when to submit. Sometimes it says, for example, to attach the resume, but also have it cut and paste into the body of the email. Don't not get the interview because you didn't follow directions. Make sure you read the directions, and if they say that's how they want you to do it, it's a test. Can you follow directions? So make sure you do it right. Have a friend proofread it. It goes without saying that most of us, all of us who are even professional writers, we never see our own mistakes sometimes. It takes a fresh set of eyes. So ask somebody to proof it. You certainly don't want to get out of the running for a position because you've got some silly typo. And keep it simple. Simple font, nice, clean, and crisp. No pictures. I don't know where this fad started, that people started putting pictures, but unless it's a modeling job, how you look is totally irrelevant and takes up space on a resume that needs to be nice, clean, and crisp. We talked about whether or not your resume should be a Word document or a PDF. So if you're submitting through a portal, which a lot are now doing digitally, most likely they're going to request it to be submitted in Word, because Word documents are searchable. And again, this is because the computer is doing the first scan. Follow directions, whatever they ask for. If they ask for a PDF, definitely do whatever they ask you. What's nice about a PDF is it can't be altered, right? So it can't get changed, but also if you work on a Mac and they have a PC, you also, with a PDF, you reduce the risk of anything being distorted or the fonts not coming through, which could look like you formatted it wrong. And maybe on your end, you formatted it correctly, but because of the different kinds of computers, it got all wonky. So PDFs are nice because they can't be altered, but not all platforms can search PDF. And so sometimes they'll ask for the Word version because they're trying to search. But I just saw an article that said that the newer version of Adobe, if you have that, is searchable if there's no images. So figure it out. Make sure that, again, you're following directions. And I just wanted you to have the background why there is sometimes preference Word or PDF. You'll want a cover letter. Again, follow the directions, whatever they ask you. Keep it short. I think 2 paragraphs. Who, what, where, when, why you're applying, Be very concise. Again, it's not your life story. Bonus points, think about real-time insight. Do a simple Google search on the company that you're applying with so that you could say something like, I saw in the news that this is something you guys are doing, or I looked on your website, I saw this is something you're working on, I read your blog, I read something. It's great to put that in the cover letter. It's a very simple effort on your part, takes less than 5-10 minutes to do that, but it really shows you took the extra effort to get to know the company.
Vicki, I have a question about that. On the cover letter, if you're emailing your interest, can you just put that in the body of your email, or does it have to be a separate cover letter attachment?
It depends. You have to follow the instructions, whatever they ask. If you're sending like a cover email note and then it's just attached, it's no longer needs to be a separate Word document. Sometimes the cover letter is now built into the email. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. It depends on different setups. Basically you follow directions. I see less and less cover letters unless you're in person. If you're doing it digitally, they probably just want that to be in the body of the email.
Okay. Thanks.
And then get it out there. Once you've got your resume, get it out there. Do not be passive about this. Do not wait for them to knock on your door. Do not wait for them to come find you. There's lots of different places to look for job listings. Right now, the two biggest ones are Indeed and LinkedIn are right now the two most popular ones. Craigslist is coming on strong too. So to recap here, and then there could be some time for questions, is your resume, again, the job of the resume is to make it very simple to show you're a great fit. It is not meant to be your life story. It is about showing why you are a good fit for the position that they're hiring for. The average recruiter will spend about 6 seconds on that document. So either you sell your story fast or you go to the trash can. Everybody wants a job. It'll be extra competitive for you guys when you guys graduate because of the situation we're all in. A lot of people are going to be raising their hands saying, I want a job. The ones who are going to get to go forward and get to go for the interview are the ones that can be really specific and customize their response. The ones that can sell a good story that I just don't want any job. I want this job. I've given thought. I've looked at your job description. I've thought about my skill set. I know I'd be a good fit. I know I'm not a gamble. I'm not a risk. Hire me. Those are the people who are going to go forward. So your job, stay healthy. You got to stay healthy, guys, because obviously we need you in the workforce when this is all over. And get ready. Use this time right now to get that resume going, get those references. You should network a lot. Talk to people about what you're interested in. Find out what's out there. Start a LinkedIn account. It's completely free. And I invite you all to connect with me. I've given you my name there and how it's spelled. I've got like 800 links. And the way LinkedIn works is that if you link into me, and I would be very happy to be your first link, you could then see my connections. And maybe one of my connections is of value to you. You'll never know unless you try it. So please give it a go. Start a LinkedIn account. I do require that if you want to get a link to me, that you tell me who you are and that you met me through CCHS, because I get a lot of random ones and I don't accept everything. So tell me who you are, tell me what you're interested in, and I will accept your link, and then you'll be able to see my network, and maybe it'll help you. But get going on that. It's how recruiters are going to find you, and you need to be thinking about that. Study the job descriptions. When you start seeing opportunities arise, really look at that job description. Make sure you're using their words, not your words, their words, because that's who you're applying for. So you can imagine if I was the blue company and I said, you want to work for me, your whole resume should be about why you love the color blue, right? You should tell me that you love it. Not about orange, green, and purple, because I don't care about orange, green, and purple. I only care about blue. So your job in a resume and eventually in the interview is to show me why you're a fit to what I care about as a company. Lastly, prepare. Think about the interview. We've done different classes through the high school where we talk about interview skills. I guarantee you, if you get to that interview stage, when you do, they're going to ask you, tell me about yourself. And you really have to have a 90-second response to that. Don't plan to go in there and wing it. I assure you they're going to ask the question, and I assure you that if you're winging it, it won't come off well. It just won't. You'll be stuttering. You'll be talking about things that are not relevant. You've got 90 seconds to tell them why you're a good fit, and it only comes from practice. So definitely plan on that as well. Keep it focused. And really, those are the things. Oh, the last thing that I realize is not here. I mentioned quickly that there's a digital version of your resume. And that goes to speaking about the fact that any employer might do a search for you online. So you need to be thoughtful about what's out there about you. When you're getting serious about applying, you should Google search your own name, because that's what a recruiter is going to do, and see what they find and whether or not that's going to create any problems for you. And if so, try to clean it up. But keep in mind that what's out there on the internet stays on the internet, and you'd be silly to think that a recruiter's not going to check. And that wraps it up. We've got, I think, about 5 minutes if anyone has some questions.
I have a question on actually interviews. So with the entry-level jobs like retail and food service, will they look at your social media? Does it matter?
They will. You know, not everyone will, but a lot of them will if they're trying to get an assessment of your maturity level. And depending on the kind of company it is, if it's, you know, affluent audiences, you know, if it matters to them that they can really be confident on how you're going to interact with their customers, they will check. It's an easy something to check.
Okay.
It used to be hard to check that stuff, so they didn't do it, but now it's super easy.
Great. Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions coming through? I don't see anything on the chat. We will be getting some of these slides out to, I'm not sure, Vicki, if you're able to send over your presentation.
Yep.
You can send it to, for sure, Mr. White, and I did write some names down who attended today. And if you have any other questions, and maybe we can even do an interview. We'll talk about maybe an interview workshop as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no questions, and you can always email me if you have any other questions. And adrianmadrid@ccusd. And if that is all the questions or any other questions, then I think that's it. We do have a workshop. I did want to mention there is a workshop coming up right at 12 on how to manage your stress with a health and wellness coach and a Reiki master. And so she'll be doing this at 12 o'clock, and I sent out all the Zoom links through your emails. You all should have it for what's happening this week.
Sounds like a good one.
That sounds like a good one. Yeah, great. And then we also have another one on tomorrow with an actress, professional actress, and casting associate. And Friday is a computer network architect networking. So thank you. Feedback is always helpful too. Oh, someone did ask, Cody asked, how many people should we have as reference? I think you said 3.
3.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, 3.
3 references. And as I said, as Vicki said, you need to ask them, please. And you cannot use a relative or, relative. You should use somebody who's an adult.
It's better if it's not a relative. A family friend, though, counts, is okay. Someone maybe where you volunteer at, school is best, former, any kind of employment, internship. If you did volunteer for a one-day event, whoever was in charge of that event that can speak to how well you contributed, that would be good. But the trick is to make it formal. Don't make it informal, because you want them to realize how seriously you're taking this, so that when they say yes, they understand what's being asked of them.
Right, and I do want to mention that the Jonathan Club just sent me an email. I know we didn't have the career fair because it was canceled, but The Jonathan Club is going to be hiring when we come back to some sort of normalcy. People will be hiring again, especially retail. And in this case, the Jonathan Club is on the beach in Santa Monica, and they need all kinds of people, and they do hire our students. So I'm going to be posting that to our Instagram account, which is CCC_CCHS. If you don't already follow us, we post lots of not only job openings, but stuff that's happening, and college pictures right now of our seniors and where they're going. And also coming up, I just want to give a real quick plug. We have a graduate panel on May 27th of 11 CCHS grads who are in college or graduated college who are working, and they're going to be on Zoom on May 27th. So I'm going to be getting that word out to you. So that's great for you. And there's one other question. I think there was something. How early should we inform them before the interview for the references?
You could go ahead and ask them now.
Yeah.
But I would recommend you giving them heads up. So again, you're not going to proactively put out their phone numbers, just, blanket the world with that. But you'll know because a recruiter calls you and says, can I have your references? Go ahead, give it to the recruiter, and then your next phone call should be to call those 3 people up and say, I just gave your phone number to a recruiter. I want to thank you again for agreeing to be my reference. This is a position at X, Y, and Z company, and I would love it if you would stress my strengths in management, organization, good with kids, good with seniors, whatever it is you want them, because everybody wants to help you. So just feed them a few of those buzzwords that you want to make sure they say.
Great. And then another question, what is the best thing to do if I have no job experience? What do I do to help look for a job or find a job?
So what you do is you think about what you've done, and maybe it's your coursework, any kind of volunteer work, activity work, whatever, and you look at that list that had different just skills, right? Like, so maybe you don't have